Hello, I'm Ben Mankiewicz. Welcome to Turner Classic Movies, where throughout October we are helping to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Film Foundation, founded by director Martin Scorsese in 1990. The foundation is dedicated to the preservation and protection of movies from all over the world. And joining me now, the director of the Academy Film Archive, Mike Pogorzelski. Mike, thanks so much for being here.
It's great to be here. Thank you, Ben.
Film preservation, restoration, near as I can tell, just about the most collaborative process in this business. You guys have worked often with the Film Foundation. Any rough estimate of how many movies you've helped to restore with the foundation?
It's probably in the hundreds. We've worked on restorations of not just feature films like Detour, but of avant-garde and experimental films, short films, home movies. It runs the gamut, and the numbers tick up really quickly when you have lots of short films mixed in with the features.
Mike, you mentioned Detour, a 1945 film directed by Edgar Ulmer. That's the movie we have coming up next. But before we get to Detour, Mike, the biggest challenge, probably a difficult question. There are many challenges, but what would you describe as the biggest few challenges in a restoration?
Well, usually the main challenge is if the original elements don't exist, then it's a matter of finding elements sometimes all over the world to piece a movie back together. That's really often the biggest challenge is the hunt, the search for elements.
And just so everybody is clear, when you say elements, you mean little pieces of the film, scenes, half scenes, shots.
Exactly. Sometimes the prints are incomplete, especially with silent films. Sometimes it does get down to that level of granularity, as you were pointing out, of saying, well, there's a shot here in this print from the archive in Brazil, and the reel that's coming from the Academy Film Archive has these three shots that the Brazilian print doesn't. And so you have to take all those pieces and put them back together.
And I want everybody to appreciate the detail that goes into this. I mean, a jump cut, again, which would be a scene where, say, somebody gets out of bed and then immediately they're leaving the bedroom door and you don't see them walk across the room. Nobody involved in restoration thinks, oh, well, people will just get that. We'll keep the jump cut in. You want to find those 2-3 seconds that show the character walking across the bedroom.
Exactly. Now I think that audiences have become so familiar with seeing films on monitors in their home that things like jump cuts and scratches, dust, dirt, it really takes viewers out of the movie. And so that's one of the reasons why we have to be so exacting, is that for older films, we want to have our restoration work level the playing field so that the movie can be judged and appreciated and dove into the same way that audiences expect their movies to play and to unfold in the 21st century. And so if something like a jump cut would take people out of the movie in a way that would be really unfair to the filmmakers. So we have to get down to that level.
Mike, the film we have coming up now, Detour, directed by Edgar Ulmer, one of the really great and important film noirs to come out of the 1940s. We'll talk a bunch about it after the movie, but quickly, was this a difficult, challenging restoration?
This restoration was years in the making. Detour fell into the public domain, and as often is the case with public domain movies, they are distributed in all different kinds of copies that were of various levels of quality. And so Heather Linville worked for years trying to find elements on Detour and noting where each of them lived. And there was always this print that we knew about that was in the collection of the Cinémathèque Royale de Belgique in Brussels. But no one really ever considered it as a preservation source because it was subtitled in Flemish and French. And so, again, with a photochemical workflow, unless you wanted to have the Flemish and the French subtitles be a part of it, that element couldn't be used. In 2017, we asked the director of the Cinémathèque Royale, Nicola Mazzanti, another stalwart of film preservation, to just send us some test scans because we had some elements that were missing frames, and we thought, well, maybe those missing frames don't have subtitles on them in this printed. We could kind of piece the movie together from multiple sources. And instead of sending us test scans, Nicholas scanned the entire print and sent it to Heather and I in Los Angeles. And I will always remember the date. September 29th, 2017 was one of the best days Heather and I ever had at work, because when we put this print up on screen, it was so much better looking than anything we had seen in the 10 years that we had been looking for Detour elements. We determined this print was made from the camera negative, so it was only one generation away from the original. And we knew right then and there that it was going to be the source for this restoration.
Mike, thanks very much. That's great information. We'll talk more after we see the movie. Here it is from 1945, restored by the Academy Film Archive in collaboration with the Film Foundation and funded by the Hobson Lucas Family Foundation. Directed by Edgar Ulmer, here are Tom Neal and Ann Savage in Detour.